Yeah, thank you. Thank you for patience. Sorry for being a little bit late. I'm just coming from the airport. You probably heard that. Coming from international, so I made it really. I tried to make it as quick as possible. Everyone who knows Vancouver Airport, I was sprinting to the immigration to skip the whole line, and then there were like just two planes from Asia arrived before me, and there was a long line. So yes, it's not an easy day. So I want to kick it off with what is for me most important today is to say thank you. Thank you to Venny for many very good years at the Whitecaps, but I specifically want to speak about the last 3.5, where he has helped us on our road of development in a very, very good way. If I remember, and I was speaking with him on the phone about this when I walked down to the South Turf pitch and asked him just before he went to training with the second team if he's ready to take over after this training session with the first team. I don't think that he or I would have imagined that this will develop in such a good way, and it will help this club and us so much. So 3 Canadian championships. We have been 3 times in the playoffs. Missed it once, very short at the last match day in Minnesota. So I think looking back where we are coming from, or where we were coming from, and where we are today, I have to say thank you for this outstanding work on the pitch, but also what he has done for the club as a spokesperson and as a face in the community off the pitch. All of this is it was great, is great, and I would have more words in German to say thank you, but so I keep it in English. I keep it in English to a big thank you from my side and from the club side. And I'm very happy that we found a way to act classy here and to find a professional solution on the work side, but to keep our friendship alive. And we already chatted like friends after the final decision was made. But I also want to say, and that's the last thing in my opening statement, it's what I got brought in for to make the difficult decisions. To make the easy decisions is, I would say, is not that challenge, and you have to make the difficult decisions, and you have to make them right, and you have to make them at the right time. And for that reason, I had to make this decision now. I took a long time. I spoke with every single player. I really checked into the whole group, spoke with staff to check in where we are at, because I think we were on the high of 3.5 years with Venny, on the high of my time here in the playoffs. But we also had a few challenges in this season, and that wasn't a problem because the season at the end ended the way it ended. But I had to make sure, and I have to make sure, and that's my job, that everyone comes back next year with hunger, with anger about how the season ended, with belief, and with enough energy that we can do the next step next year. Because I want to get further than the first round of the playoffs, and for that it needs a lot for this club. And I think we have all pieces together in the group, on the pitch. We will work on adding pieces, but I think we have the pieces, we have the players that can bring us in the second round of a playoff, at least. And don't quote me that this is the final and ultimate target, but it's the first target. First, do one step more, and then from there, I'm more than happy to discuss what's the next step in right away after that. After all these weeks of thinking, I unfortunately got to the feeling that we will not have enough energy next year. And that's maybe the natural thing of this business. And it is something that also makes me sad at the same point that we've come to this point. But better you find out before it is too late and everyone thinks like, yes, it was at such a great height, and you couldn't keep it going the same way. And so after all of those weeks, and really giving everyone also time to think about it again and to check in with everyone once again and to speak with them. What do you think? How do you feel? What do we need for next season? It was a call that I had to make.
Axel, in the time that you took to come to this decision, what were the main key contributing factors that led you to dismiss Vanni Sartini?
I was only, and that's our business. Everything you have achieved last week doesn't matter for next week. That's unfortunately like that. It's something for the history books, and you can write it in that. We can always come together and celebrate those most amazing moments, but it's always about the next game or the next season and the next challenge. And the only thing that has driven me through the time was really, do I have to believe that on 11, 12, 13, 14th of January, when we are back on the pitch and start to train, do we have a group that has all of what I just said? Anger and hunger and belief and energy, and is everyone coming back with like, wow, I have to come back in the best form ever and I have to be prepared because this will be the next season, and is everyone coming back with the right energy level? And if not, you better find a solution now after you find out after 5 or 7 games, because that's the risk, and that's obviously what drove my decision is, if we don't have all tools in place, then we better finish on a high than to wait until we maybe get to a low, where we then say, okay, that's a natural process in this business. So many years, the average due time of a coach in clubs is, by the way, in the first 30 leagues is 11 months. So it is the natural thing. I don't want to come to this point. I want not to miss the momentum. And I have seen that several times in my business, that coaches went away. Thomas Tuchel was a very famous example in Mainz, where he still had contract, and he said, I cannot stay because I don't think we can achieve what we have achieved this year, or we can do the next step. And so that was the only thing that drove my decision.
What is your timeline for naming a new head coach, and what qualities will you look for in that coach?
Look, I have no timeline because I haven't prepared for this scenario, and I'm the last person. Or I want to hold myself to certain standards in this business. I'm going into my 26th professional season with no break, and happily, I don't think I have a lot of. I think almost no one in the business who I cannot connect with in friendship or with respect. So it's not what I do. I'm not starting to speak with 5 coaches and see what is out in the market. And then if I think there's the right one, or no, somebody who can maybe do it better for this moment, then I'd make this decision. I really have spent all my energy in analyzing the situation, in getting to solution. I was speaking with Vanni through the time, and I said, look, I need more time, because I want to give it time, because I wanted to really give it every chance, and because sometimes things feel 2 weeks after a season different than right after a season, right after the game. If you speak with somebody right after a game, and the first 3 days, you have a different emotion about it. And so the process of hiring a new coach starts now. And what is the profile? The profile is somebody who understands and accepts what we have here. We will not bring somebody in who comes in with a lot of new ideas, and he says, look, I play a total different style, and I will first, I need to switch or change a couple of players. I think we have a starting 11. We have even more than 11 players who can start for us and compete and win every game. We will still lose games, but I think we have more than 11 players that we can start in every given MLS game, and they can compete to win. And so the person who comes in has to respect that, and he has to watch our games. He has to look at our playoff games, and he has also to look at the games that maybe have been a little bit challenging for us, and he has to give good answers to me and my group, how he will work with this group and what he thinks he can do with this group.
Axel, just adding to that then, with training camp less than 2 months away and big roster decisions coming up, how urgent is this search? I know you say you don't have a timeline, but do you feel, I guess, a bit of urgency with these deadlines coming up?
Yeah, I'm not so worried about the roster decisions, because I think we have a very strong group, and we have made these decisions also in the past within the group, and when he had a thumbs up or thumbs down, because obviously you don't want to hire a player that the coach never wants to play, but I feel we are in a very good place about all those roster decisions that we have to make. We need a coach the moment we start to train, that's for sure. But I think urgency is never a good advisor. So I don't want to be driven by urgency, and we need to hire somebody. And my phone was not stopping, and I couldn't even open all the messages. And we hire one of the first 20 that got offered, because then we have somebody. No, we will. We want to hire the right one, and we want to be very careful, and we have to be careful. We have something really good here, and Venny, big thank you once again. It has helped us to build this, and I agreed with him. We need to find somebody who continues this work, and not who restarts at 2 steps back, or who wants to reinvent the whole club and change a lot. And that's anyway something I don't like. The club culture and the club is the driver of everything, and in this way you build consistency, and so we have to find somebody who fits to the culture and to what we have built here.
You talked about his impact on and off the pitch and in the community. How important will that trait be in the hiring of the next coach?
That will not be a key element of the coaching profile that we will look at. I think if at the end you have 2-3 candidates and you would be happy to go with either one, you probably can look at some additional skills somebody has. I would also say Venny has grown into this over the years. It wasn't like that in his beginning, in the first years he played this role. And also, I think this group also has to take more responsibility in future. So I think it might be even something positive if the players cannot always hide behind the player who is taking such a prominent role. Because I think we will also become more successful if we have more individual leadership on the pitch and in the locker room. And so I don't even think it would be too bad if somebody cannot fill fully Venny's role there. But if somebody is there and he has all the characteristics, I'm not against hiring somebody. But the first skills and the first things that the coach has to have is those that I spoke before about.
Axel, I think many of us saw on social media the reaction to the news, and predominantly it was shock. Many are seeing this as a big gamble from yourself and from the club in terms of terminating, the most successful coach in MLS history for you guys. Does that for you show not only the love that they had for Venny, but also maybe the surprise at this ambitious move and your reaction to kind of the risk that comes with firing such a head coach and search for somebody that can take you to the next level?
Yeah, look, you can also say the other way around. It would have been a risk not to do it if you all had the feeling that, and all together, and when he was part of the process, that we might not get the right energy back onto the pitch. We have made 2 points in 7 games before the end of the season, And this was the time where Wenny and I already started to think about what do we need to do next year, what's going on, and what do we have to change. So that's what I want to say. It was not exclusively my opinion and my feeling. It was a feeling that we had in general, that we got a very good season out of this, but we also have played we have been the second worst home team in the Western Conference. So there is a lot of things we would have to work on. We will have to work on. We would have to work in every constellation, and we will have to work on for next season. And then the question is, how much energy and how much of belief and impact you get with not bringing in something fresh. Is then listening always to the same and hearing it again always from the same and in the same way. Is that then making the difference to really change that? And so that's where it was coming from. That has nothing to do with Venny's skills, and that has nothing to do with what he has done, and he was super successful. It has more to do with what have been our challenges in this season, why we haven't finished in the top four, although we have been a virtual top four 7 games before the end of the season, and why we ended up in this scenario, in that we obviously that we actually have played very well then in this scenario, but still we lost against the best team in the Western Conference, and we were thinking about how can we avoid such a scenario next year, and what do we have to do for this, and I'm not so surprised about directions, because Venny, I'm not. I can tell you, it's not a happy day for me. So I'm sad about that we had to make this decision professionally. We had to make this decision. So I'm sad about this, and so a lot of people sad about this. And those people who are the closest to the club are the first ones reacting. And that rightly, because they think, look, that's sad that this had to happen. Shocked, sad. But I think I cannot make, and I will never make my decisions based on what is the most favorable or most well-received decision, because at the end, I will be people will hold me accountable in 3 or 6 months, and if I then say, "Oh, I had already a bad feeling in the winter break, and we haven't done anything," then I want to see directions then. So we have to do what we are convinced of, and there's also no hindsight ever, because we can never go back. Whatever happens in the first 10 games of next season, we can only hold. We can only work on what we believe on, and to do everything better. But there is never a hindsight in professional sports how it would have worked the other way around.
And I know that you've said that you don't have a timeline right now for the next head coach, but the opportunity that presents itself for you is that you get to choose, I think, properly for the first time since you've been here, your own head coach that you can select. Have you been thinking about the approach on how to choose it in terms of, are you looking for somebody that has MLS experience? I know there's a lot of MLS head coaches that also have been let go. Or are you looking to maybe tap into your connections back to Europe and in Germany in terms of international experience?
Look, for me, I would say so much that it's not a key criteria to have MLS experience. Obviously, then if you have no MLS experience, you have to prove to me that you're flexible and that you have worked in more than one environment, or that you have worked in environments where you have to adapt to certain things. Because I don't think that MLS is any special, but it is obviously in some things different. And at the end, you work a full week with your squad in a more professional environment than most leagues in the world. If we exclude like the top 5, I think if you go to the other leagues in Europe, I just spoke with a few guys about that, how great our facilities are and how great the setup is, and how great and even in the exit meetings, some of the players that lately joined, they said, look, I would never imagined how good the standard is. The special things about MLS, they come more with, I would say, how you can build a roster or how much you can change in the roster, and how you have to play this puzzle game of putting players together. But we're pretty good there. I think, as I said before, there's not like a million of changes that have to happen. And then the other thing is obviously the travel and the different scenarios you are going to. That in some market it is like 40 degrees hot, and in others is a mile high, and sometimes you fly 5 hours and you have 3 hours of time change, and to adapt to that. But honestly, I think we have a very good setup here, and you get a lot of support. And to go back to the question with this squad, that is obviously the one other thing that in all those considerations is how much can you change in the squad to create a new congruency and a new situation where you find this energy. But I think everyone who knows our squad and follows us now for a time, and everyone who has seen our last games will say, okay, that makes no sense to move a lot of those players out who are starters, because I think if we look at our best 11 and everyone builds a best 11, everyone would say, okay, there is not a lot of areas where you can bring like a difference maker or somebody who will push the whole team and create this chaos by that, and with that, I would say bring everyone back onto the front foot.
Axel, you just kind of mentioned it with the squad next year, big year. You got all your DP spots filled. A lot of players are between that 26 to 30 age range for, in their primes. Does that maybe prioritize experience in terms of this head coaching hiring, knowing that, this window of this team could potentially close at any minutes with how aging curves and all that can work?
Yeah, experience, yes. Experience as a coach, although that doesn't mean for me, and that was a discussion that we have had a lot of in Germany, and probably in other countries as well, but you can be very experienced by coaching, for example, very successful youth teams or lower league teams. So not saying that that's the road I go down, that's a general comment. So don't think that anything what I say right now is because I don't have any profile yet. But I remember we hired once Domenico Tedesco or Thomas Tuchel. He was a U19. He won the U19 championship in Germany, and people said, "Oh, such an unexperienced coach." And he was like already coaching 7 years as a head coach in top youth leagues. So that's experience. How to deal with situations in the season. How to deal with a group. How to manage a group through a whole season. That's experience for me. And being the responsible person, and being the person who has to explain to the players, who has to hold the players accountable, or who has to be, also has to make the hard decisions sometimes. I would say yes, that's yes. Experience on what level is then a different question that we still have to find out.
I asked Vanni this question, and it's about just the season that's been, whether you see it as one of progression, regression, or staying the same. Vanni pointed towards metrics, chances created, all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the hard metrics, it's a lower league position, it's less goals, it's less points. Do you see it as a season of progression? Did it stay the same, or did the club take a bit of a backward step?
Yeah, it's wonderful things about stats. The only stat that matters is at the end the position in the ranking and the goals scored and goals against, probably. And I think in all three stats we have been worse than last season. But I also would not go down this road and say for that reason that there was no progression at all. I think there was progression. But let's say it was something missing at the end. That's what we all can agree on. And what have been the reasons? Some of the things look better in the stats, and clearly better in the stats than the year before, but the outcome wasn't the same. So have we this year underperformed or the last year overperformed? The thing is, and it goes back, and it's a great question. The thing is, how do we come back with the belief that we next year will get to a better outcome? and I think it's part of this problem. Like if we say, oh, there was a lot of progression, and the team is doing a lot better, but the outcome is not better, then it is even a more complicated question. So yes, I would say the biggest progression that I have seen was our last 4 games, and how we have challenged our opponents, and how tight and a game of inches this was against LAFC, and we won the aggregate against them in 3 games, and it was like a coin toss in the third game. If Brian scores at the beginning, then we're 1 up, and they score then from an unlucky situation on our side where Kubas wants to save and help, and he heads the ball into the foot of the forward of LAFC. But at the end, I agree with you. We are all not 100% happy with the outcome of the season, and this is also why I say we have to come back with anger, because we have to feel anger that we ended up in a situation that we should not have ended in. We shouldn't have played LAFC. And then with the form that we had against LAFC and against Portland, with all respect to other opponents, I think we would have had a bigger chance. And if we would have played 2 games at home, even bigger. So that's what I have to think about for the future, because that's done and everything was great. And once again, there's nothing to criticize, but it is to analyze and to think about, how do we play a better season? And I want to say that very careful, and please, that should not be understood as any criticism of last season. But of course, there were a lot of things where people were also frustrated. There is also, on the way here, I was on this plane, and everyone in the club is working and sending me documents and everything. I got also a social media review, and there's also another part where people say, yeah, well, it was frustrating this year to go to home games, and that's I want to be very careful, because there's not criticism on Venny, really not. He has done everything. He has worked 365 days on making this team better and getting to a better outcome. The final result wasn't what we really all wanted to get to. And now it's a question, how do we get to a final outcome next season where we sit after the season here and think, okay, this was a progression. And as we know in this business, this sometimes also goes fresh. I want to describe it as fresh energy. I hope everyone understands that from the English word, the English words that I use, that no one's responsibility. You create this fresh energy by bringing fresh players in, new players, creating chaos, to make everyone a little bit anxious about his situation, the team, holding everyone accountable to do the next step. I have to train better. I have to play better. I have to do better. I cannot just do the same again that was good all the time. Or it comes from a new coach, for example, where everyone says, oh, the new coach, you never get the second chance to make a first impression, so I have to be ready. And that's what our business sometimes is. And I said it before, that's the reason why I'm sitting here quite sad that we have been in a situation where we had to think about such things, and we couldn't think about all the good things that we have done in the past, and we cannot speak about or cannot think about, for this professional decision, about what an outstanding person Benny is. That is without a question. And for that reason, I'm so happy that we were chatting, and he said, look, I'm more than happy to be part of the press release and have a quote there, because I see it the same, and I'm very sad that you had to make this decision. And and he obviously had to believe, and that would be weird if a coach wouldn't believe, that he can find a few ways to change things next season. And I had to make a professional decision how we can get the biggest impact to make this step forward and to get to progression.
Yeah, I think Vanny himself acknowledged he was questioning whether he could get more out of the team that was there. Looking at the wider picture, this was such a big year for the club, 50th anniversary, crowds, huge crowds, all the things that went with that. Do you feel it was a bit of a wasted opportunity, though, the way the season went? Because I know a lot of things have been out of your control, the Messi situation, stuff like that, but you've sent the fans home happy with that last game against LA at BC Place, but the overriding feeling going into that was it was just a disappointing season all round for the club.
Yeah, 100%. I was at several seasonal ticket holder events. I was at one before, I don't know, I don't think it was a playoff game. Maybe it was the last home game before that. But maybe it was also the playoff game. I was a season ticket holder event, and I said, look, guys, you know that I'm never shy of being ambitious, to put the bar high. I prefer to put the bar very high, and maybe we just miss it by an inch, and then it was still good. And I said, look, one thing I want to say thank you for everyone who bought his seasonal ticket, and our numbers have grown a lot over the last 2 years. And I said, look, I can give you one promise. There's one thing that we definitely have to do better next year is to play better home games, because I think I agree with you. We missed an opportunity to send those people more often home excited, and we had incredible numbers. We had the 7th best attendance in all MLS this year, and that's outside of the Miami game. We would be still in the top 10. So we had games. It starts right. It was the first game Charlotte. We had the game against Austin, the game against LAFC. And if I even take the game against Miami, even if they play without the superstars, we had so many people in the stadium, and we haven't sent the people home like excited the way we should excite them, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help our core supporters, and that's obviously our home market. If we play very good on the road and always get the points there, and then we come home, and they think like, wow, they are close. They could finish fourth, and they are competing for the 4th spot, and then they go home after the game and say, yeah, but not this way. So yeah, so now everyone will say, yeah, but we have seen the team, how good it can play. And I come back to the same, and we are now circling a little bit around. The outcome at the end wasn't what we were hoping for, what we wanted to see, what we promised our seasonal ticket holders, and what we promised them for next year again. And so we need more energy in this group to push ourselves more and to higher limits. And we could do this in playoff games. We could do this in elimination games, obviously. And we need to get the point that we do this in 30 or 34 games in the season.
Thank you, Michael. We'll go to Trevor now.
Yeah, Axel, Vanny is probably one of the most likable people you'll ever meet. I understand you have to say all the things you're saying, but the fact is that ostensibly over the last 3 years, you've kind of had the same kind of finish, maybe different way of getting there. And you said you don't want a new coach to come in and change everything and reinvent the wheel, but clearly something has to change. I'm not sure what it is. Does this mean that, and now I think the pressure falls on you now because you're going to pick your coach and things have to change. The other thing is, you said you don't see a lot of changes, and I think the general feeling is that your starting 11, probably very good. But with the amount of travel, the amount of games, that can't be sustained. So the weakness seems to be on the depth of your bench. So can you talk about what has to change, and can you talk about the depth of your bench and what you have to do about that?
Yeah, and thank you to help me to clarify that. Because if I say not a lot of things have to change for the team, it's our best 11. I don't think if you draw down our best 11 onto white paper, I think with all 3 DPs signed, U22s right now signed, it's very unlikely that we go for a clear starter in this off season. That doesn't mean that a player that we sign will not end up being a starter. And what we have to change and what we are working on is obviously more depth pieces, more players that are closer to our starting 11. So we have played 49 games. Only LAFC has played more games this season so far in this season. And players who are closer to our starting 11 players, so that we don't drop too much if we have to rotate or international breaks. There's there's a Gold Cup next year, so there will be new challenges. We will play in international windows again. We have more international players than we ever had before. So, and that's all good things, and the players are growing, and so we need to be better prepared, or we need to have less of a gap there. So this change will come, but it's only one part of the story why we will be better next season, because your starting 11 players are still the starting 11 players, and they have been here, and I agree with you, something else has to change. And I'm not saying that the new coach cannot change anything and that he has to come in and do exactly the same. The only thing we have no time for, and that I don't see, is that somebody comes in now with the complete opposite philosophy. And I also don't believe in this, because the philosophy is like certain key characters we want to see from our team. That is not a tactical lineup. That's also not that everyone that I expect right now as a starting 11 player has to play as a starting 11 player. This is more about how we approach things, how we do things. We rely a lot on our group. We rely a lot on the character of the group, on our work ethic, on our mentality, also on being disciplined, and having a good team spirit. And so somebody has to come in who respects the steps that we have already done on the road to where we are at today, and who wants to take it from here to do the next step. And obviously this has to come with some changes. And this would be now too deep and too much in details, because this is something I want to discuss with the potential candidates, and then also we have to discuss as our players before we let them read that in the public.
Nathan, then we'll go online.
Axel, next year seems to be a bit of a pivotal year in terms of what your roster is going to look like. You've got a lot of players that are on options coming up here in the next couple of days, whether they're taken or not. They're out of contract by the next year. You're going to have all the players next year that are going to be in that same position. So it seems that whatever coach you decide to bring in, there's going to be some pressure to get things done next year. Can you talk a little bit about the pressure of where coach is going to be coming in today versus when Vanny came in and it was a much different situation?
Yeah, and thank you, because I had one more point I wanted to say to Trevor. Yes, it feels like we got in different paths, we got the same outcome, but I also want to remind us where we have been before. So I would say, yes, are we feeling that we have missed something, and could there have been a bigger step, or is there a bigger step that we want to see? Yes, but also where we were coming from. So I would say this stability of going into the playoffs, more or less without a question, even with making 2 points in 7 games, you still make it to the playoffs. Not that was planned, but it tells you also how good our season has been to this point, and how clearly we go into the playoffs. It's one step, and it's to build from here. And yes, I agree. We have. I would say the options are not a problem. Options are great things, because you can really make decisions of, do you want to have the cap space, or do you want to have the player? And do you think, or you feel like you can do something better with the cap space to increase the quality of your depth? Because most of our option players are not starters. I'm quickly thinking through. Most of them. I have spoken with all of them. So I would say the majority of our options are not starters. So you can really think about, do you want to free up space here and add other pieces for the depth? But I also agree with you that we feel like we have a really good group together. And for how many years we will have this group together? We have now 3 DP spots filled, and we have some other very, very good non-DP players who are outstanding performers in this league. So you heard me speaking from the beginning that we want to develop step by step, and we want not to stop before we really compete for the highest goals. And I wouldn't say urgency, but the desperation on my side is absolutely there, and that's probably also a reason for the change, because I feel like we have to. Am I allowed to say that? Kick everyone in the ass, including me, everyone. So everyone in this organization, to say, hey, next year, guys, it's there. So and we cannot not get there, because everyone says, if you speak with the players, we have the group, we have the players, we have the quality, we believe in that. We could compete. We have been able to compete with LAFC, and so why not playing a way better season than we have done last year, and finish and getting to a way better outcome and putting us in a better starting situation than in the playoffs.
Thank you, Nathan. We'll now go online. We'll start with JJ, then Simon, then Gregory. JJ? One sec, JJ. Sorry. Just one moment, JJ. Okay, try now, JJ.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, excellent. If you guys had beat LAFC, would Vanny still have a job?
No, that's not so. That's not that simple. So really not. And so the decision was really made on how will our preseason look like, and was what kind of energy and mindset we will go into the first game of next season. And winning against LAFC and maybe winning the conference could have changed that or not. So I don't know. But it wasn't really this game. I would say, obviously, these 4 games have actually probably made me more thinking about all of this the other way around. So it was not any. It has nothing to do with the outcome of last year. To be very clear, that's a clear statement. This decision has nothing to do with the outcome of last year. Although I agree that we all, but including Vanny, felt like we haven't got to the outcome. But it is only about our belief where we can get next year and how we will start into next year.
14 seasons in MLS, the team has finished second and third, and once each time. It's been a history of mediocre results. 7 head coaches. What role does ownership play in those historical results?
Look, I cannot speak for the whole history. I haven't been here. I have the first season that I have watched that wasn't under my clock, but I have looked at the games, was obviously probably the worst in all of this. That was 2019. That was the worst one. So I honestly don't 100% understand the question, because I would say that since I'm here, we had 2 terrible years in the COVID scenario. We missed the playoffs in the first year with never being at home by 1 point more or less, or 3 points, but 1 tie against San Jose that we should have got, but by 1 game. And then we made 3 times the playoffs. Yes, obviously, and we have discussed that. We all feel like that there should have been a different outcome, or we should have come to a different outcome this year. But otherwise we wouldn't sit here. And I don't really understand or know what ownership has to do with that right now.
Well, the question is just, you've had 7 head coaches. No one has gotten the job done to the owner's satisfaction. Are these coaches and sporting directors getting the support they need to make this a successful franchise?
honestly, I'm not answering because I have to think about because I'm really thinking about, I really try, and this is a very complicated question. Was there ever a moment where I thought like, okay, we haven't got everything and it isn't, but that's not our approach, and I think this is not the reason. The reason is that we had, and I have said that from the first moment when I arrived here, that I'm not having the magic stick, so that this will take time to build, and I think that the COVID years haven't helped to build, but we still were building, and I think that last season 2023, we actually ended on a pretty high, and the vibe around the club was really, really good. We have built on this hype. We had a really good season, if you look at support, and now we are sitting here because we think that we haven't got to the outcome. Is this only on coaches? Is this only on ownership? This is on everyone in this club, that we haven't been able to play consistently our best, and that we have in the last 7 games and a lot of home games not pushed ourselves enough to get to the results that I wanted to see. And so it's now my job to make the decision in a way that I believe next year we will go for it. And I don't find anyone who doesn't believe that we next year can play the season. I think we have been close this year, but honestly, the last 7 games obviously have really hurt us.
Thank you, JJ. We'll go to Simon next, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Axel, you had in the past given your admiration for the Philadelphia Union and the way that they had done things. And of course, nearly 3 weeks ago, they let Jim Curtin go as head coach, which came in some ways as probably a bit of a surprise to everyone in MLS as this news today with Sartini. Is Jim Curtin someone that you will consider giving some thought to in terms of your process to find Vanney's replacement?
So first of all, everyone who is free and available is a candidate, and everyone is at the same time no candidate. So I will not comment any name right now, because I don't think that makes sense, and it would be also disrespectful to certain names to bring up names or not bring up names. The Philadelphia Union was an example for me, because I thought like that they have built over years a very successful group, and they have done that as a smaller market team in a smarter way. I'm coming from the background that being a smaller market team and accepting your reality doesn't mean that you cannot compete for the highest goals. That is maybe also a little bit an answer to the comments that JJ has made before, because we ourselves never had a moment that we didn't believe that we could finish, let's say, in the top 4 at least, what would have given us another home game. And I thought that Philadelphia Union was a club that has, in a very, very good way, built a team that was competing on the highest level. And that's what I see and expect from my team. And we want to start as early as next season with that, to compete for a top 4 spot. And that includes the first and the second, but first of all, get us into a better starting position for the playoffs.
My second question is to what you've just talked about in regards to really looking for someone who's going to be able to come in and fit within the environment that you've already established. Do you maybe, in having said that, have any concerns that that may very well limit what amount of options you may have out there as a result of that? Because in terms of certainly bringing in any experienced coach, in a lot of cases they would want to be coming into something new, being able to bring their own ideas. Do you feel you've got a bit of a challenge in terms of balancing who you've got for potential or who you'd be considering for potential candidates between that and what you've got in terms of an established environment, and trying to get that person to sort of shoehorn and fit into the shoe that you've almost sort of got in place here?
No, I would say it has a huge group of potential candidates out there. I think it only excludes a few that stand for a complete different style or a different approach. You have coaches who come in and say, "Look, I will build you a successful team, but I need 2 transfer periods, and I have to change a lot of players to my style." That's not what I want. I will do, and it's not what our fans want to hear. Our fans want to hear, and for me, and again, I'm ambitious, and I put the bar high that we compete next year, that we have that we show them better home games, that we compete and finish in the top 4, and so it only excludes such candidates who I would say are builders and build certain things their way, and it's then the big pool of coaches who are flexible and have a proven record that they make teams can coach teams right away to success.
And I have one more question. From what we just heard, that you've retained much of the remaining coaching staff within the club at the moment. Going forward, do you feel that a lot of those individuals will still have a role with the team into next season?
Right now, there's no reason to doubt about this, but obviously, I have not spoken with them. I first had to speak with Venny, and I will sit down with everyone in the staff of the coaching staff tomorrow, and we'll hear what they think about the situation. But look, we have built here something. We have brought in a lot of people into the staff that I have been convinced of, and I have brought in, and so this will not change with a new coach. Then if a coach, when we hire, not if probably yes, when we hire, Germany is the same word. There's only one for it. So when we hire a new coach, that he might want to bring in an assistant coach he has worked before with. That's something that is also normal. And what does that mean for the staff? We will then see. But we had one of the smallest staffs in the league as well. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be done, and also in the future, and even more if we want to go for higher goals and want to compete in every single game.
Thank you, Simon. We'll finish with Gregory Strong, please.
Hi there. Thanks for the time. When did you first think that a coaching change might have to be made?
Good question. I think more concretely, this was coming from conversations I had with Venny. I've spoken more with Venny in all these years than with my wife, probably. So it was coming from some conversations I had with him during this stretch of the 7 games. I think that was a point where we both discussed that we have to find out how much of energy, belief, all of the things that I said is there. If we just continue to do what we do.
And once you made the final decision and told Vanny the news, what was his reaction?
His reaction was, as I have said before, he's sad that we come to the point that we have to make this professional decision. But he says, "Look, I'm grateful. I want to be." He said he want to say thank you for the opportunity and chance he got here, in all those years, and also the trust that I had in him for 3.5 years, and again, on such a journey of 3.5 years is not always going straight upwards. It's ups and downs in such years, and I think the moments, how do you support each other in the down moments is way more important than in the up moments. And so we were speaking about what a nice and good journey this was for 3.5 years, and that we will definitely soon meet for some glasses of red wine and discuss the politics of the world and everything else, but no soccer.
Perfect. Thank you, Gregory. And that concludes today's media conference. If you have additional requests, please reach out to the Whitecaps Communications Department. Thank you very much for joining us today, online and in person, and thank you very much, Axel.